Hey guys, today's gonna be a special day for a pretty rough reason. It's raining outside. It's a nice stay inside and play video games day, and yeah. So the first two parts of this have been released, which is awesome. You guys seem to really like them. For now, we'll see if this keeps up. This is part 7, so we'll see the staying power these have. But feedback has been really good, which is awesome because I'm having a lot of fun playing this, and I'm just glad you guys are responding. So yeah, I'm gonna train Gromlin a little bit more. His stats are pretty low right now. But today's topic is my severe depression. So it's gonna get rough. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, which is I'm here and happy. Happy-ish. Happy's a strong word, but happy enough. So, I mean, we don't have to worry about it, but things are going to get pretty fucking dark today. So, if there's anyone out there who's like, I don't know, I'm not really in a good place to listen to stuff like this, or maybe you think it'll help you, then you should listen. Or if you're like, I don't know, I don't want to get triggered by this. I don't normally do trigger warnings ahead of videos because I could give two shits. That's not true. I do care, but I just normally don't think I say anything triggering. But today we might go over that line. So that is your warning. I do not want to go any further than that. So without saying anything more, but that's those are the plans for today. So yeah. Oh boy, where do I even start with this? So let's go with my home life. I was born. This is also going to get kind of life story, which may or may not be for you, but we're going to go through it anyway. I was born to a mother, which is different than most people I know. No, I was born, my mother had me when she was 23, almost 24. I am now 26, and I cannot fucking imagine having a kid. And going through my childhood, I bet she couldn't either. So that's where I'm at emotionally. But yeah, so I was born. My biological father, ditched. He said, "Fuck this kid business, bruh. I'm out." He said those exact words, which is really interesting because I didn't think like bruh and stuff like that, or even like I didn't think anyone said those yet. But I mean, ahead of his time, I guess. So. He left immediately, and I was pretty much raised by my mom until, well, for a few years at least. Eventually, my mom had 2 more children, my brother and sister, to a different father. I'm not going to say names because it'd be weird, but yeah, so Mark is technically my half brother. Do not treat him like a half brother. I never have. Honestly, it didn't even occur to me until I was like 16. That they were half siblings. I just honestly didn't see the point in treating them any differently. So they're, in my eyes, my full-blooded siblings. I don't care about anything beyond that. Family's subjective anyway. Family is what you decide it is. So what was I gonna say? So when I was around, I didn't know if I made that. What? No, it wasn't. Garbage. So yeah, when I was like 3 or 4, my mom eventually met a guy, very nice guy, and he was like, he didn't care that she had kids or anything like that. He was very nice. They met through work. They got engaged. Then my mother cheated, and he was like, I can't do this. But he was like, but I also can't just leave you with these kids alone. So he's like, I'll be your friend, and I'll keep seeing the kids and stuff like that, but I can't be with you emotionally. And they would do that again about 2 more times. And then she would put a restraining order against him. And then she would say, no, just kidding. Twice. And then eventually just leaving it alone. But yeah, he was like, yeah, you're not fit to take care of these kids. I'm old-fashioned, so I'm not going to call child services, but you need someone to help you take care of these kids, so I'm going to do that. And he would drive down about 45 minutes every day after working all day, just to come hang out with us, visit us, help us do homework and stuff like that. That is the man who I today refer to as my dad. There's no blood relation, there's no legal relation, but he's my dad. So that's how that goes. If you ever hear me say like, oh, my dad or something like that, that's why. That's who I'm referring to. Same with Mark. because his dad stayed around for a little bit longer. That's Mark's story, and that's his to tell. But he stayed around for a little bit longer. I never really got along with him, but he wasn't great. I don't know if he tried. I guess, I don't know, it's tough to say. But he was around a bit more, until eventually Mark just decided he didn't want anything to do with him. But again, that's Mark's story. That's not my place to say. So yeah, when I was so that was early childhood, I guess. When I was, I'm trying to think of when this would start. So I've told this like a couple different times in different videos and different formats and stuff like that, but I'll go into it again a little bit. When we were in school, we were in elementary school, my mother was not doing great. She did a lot of, I just gotta say it, drugs. I think it was mostly like pain stuff, so like oxys and stuff like that, and heroin and whatnot. I don't know if she ever did heroin back then, but that, and she drank a lot. So she was fucked up, is what we used to call it. Just not to insult her or anything, but just because we didn't know what substance was in her system. So it was just easier to just say fucked up. She is not well. She is not the way that she's supposed to be. And she would continue to do this well into my adult life. But yeah, so as a kid, it was strange, because my mom, she wasn't dumb. She made a lot of dumb decisions, and she preferred, like, oh my god, this is gonna sound really fucked up to say. She preferred pleasure, ugh, gross, to other things. And what I mean by that is, like, she didn't care what was really happening as long as she can get high. But she was smart enough to, like, know how to do it well, if that makes sense. What I mean by that is so she would never go on, like, a full-blown bender, or not never, but she would very rarely, like, lose control. Even lose control sounds weird. She would rarely do enough to go into, like, a coma-like state where she'd be, like, passed out all the time or in bed all day until school vacations. School vacations were her vacations from responsibility. What I mean by that is she would, like, during the school week, she would get us up, she would do whatever it takes to not have to get a call from, like, the school or something. But then once the weekend hit, or I'm sorry, not even, when the weekend hit, I'm going to call him Biggie for the sake of that. His name is Mark, my brother's name is Mark, so we called him Big Mark, which eventually evolved to Biggie. He's the one I call my dad. He eventually, or not eventually, but he would take us on the weekends, and we didn't think anything of it. We were just like, oh, it's a lot of fun, you know, he's off starting Saturday, like, afternoon into Monday morning, so we'd have a lot of fun at his house. We'd stay over there. That's where I first started playing video games. That's where I played my first PlayStation, because his biological son, who's like 20 years older than me, had it, and yeah, it was genuinely a lot of fun staying over there. We all looked forward to it. He would take us out to eat and stuff. He would get to hang out and do stuff. It was just fun. He would take us on Sundays. He would take us to go do stuff. You're like, Nick, I thought the story was about depression. I'm getting to that. I'm setting the stage. But yeah, but on vacations, he still had to work during the week and stuff like that. So he couldn't always do that. And the result of that would be that my mother would have to take us. And as soon as the school wasn't going to contact her or something like that, then she would just kind of stop caring. So, like, she wouldn't really feed us. There'd be, like, food in the house. Like, there'd be bread and deli meat sometimes. There'd be, like, dry, like, cereal stuff. But, like, there'd be no dinners. There'd be no lunches. There'd be no breakfast. It was sort of just fend for yourself. Make do with what you got. I think Biggie would occasionally come over and just, like, bring groceries or bring us, like, food. Which was very, very nice. We didn't have to do that. And yeah, it was, shit. It was just kind of, it was neglect, that's what it was. She didn't abuse any of us. Like, she wasn't, like, smacking people around. She wasn't like, oh, you can't do this, like, leaving us tied to cars, whatever the fuck people do to abuse kids. But it wasn't great either. It was just sort of she would do the bare minimum. So, as I started getting older, becoming more, like, aware of the world, that didn't sit well with me anymore. Where it was like, I've talked about this story before, where it's like, there was one Christmas vacation where we went over to my brother and sister's house, and which was annoying because I had, like, video game systems by then. It's like, I'd rather just be home. But it's because he would, like, you know, again, he would do the bare minimum, but at his smaller house, to, like, he would, like, feed us and be like, all right, we're gonna go fishing, or we're gonna do all this outdoor shit. And I'm like, no, I want to stay inside. I don't want to play Animal Crossing. So that's what, but I couldn't do that. So I had like my portable systems, maybe. This was also a point in time where she just kicked Biggie out of her life. She was like, no, you're not allowed to be near the kids, because he would say stuff like, hey, don't do drugs. And she'd be like, who the fuck are you to tell me how to live my life? And he'd be like, you have 3 kids, don't do drugs. And she'd be like, how dare you come and assume that you can tell me what to do? And I'd be like, oh no, it's pretty fucked up for you to do drugs when you have kids and stuff like that. And she'd be like, well, restraining order. So, yeah, and so that stuff kind of happened. But I remember there was a time where it's like, somehow I finagled my way. I was old enough. I must have been like 10, 11, 12, 13-ish. I don't know. It's hard to place this stuff. But I must have been old enough where I like stood up for myself and was like, hey, I want to go home because I got stuff to do there, or I got video game stuff there. And they were probably like, no. And I was like, please? And they were like, no. And they're like, okay, I'm going to be really fucking depressed and annoying unless you do it. And they're like, oh, fine, just go home. So I did. And I'll never forget, it was either my brother who had done it, like before we left, or it was my mother. But someone threw up in one of our bathrooms. Back then we had 2 bathrooms because I was fancy. I remember it was there like the Monday we left, like it happened, and I think someone said my mom was going to clean it up or something. And then when I came back on like a Wednesday or Thursday, it was still on the bathroom floor, which was fucking disgusting. So that's the kind of mental picture I want to paint here. And it's just, again, it wasn't like actually, nobody, like it wasn't like actual abuse, but it was like neglect. So once I started getting older, I remember I came home and just like, I was in the middle of the night, I was hungry, and I was just like playing Animal Crossing. And I found like an igloo because it was winter. And like I found someone chilling in the igloo. And I think it was like someone who wasn't part of the Animal Crossing town. And I remember thinking like, this is weird. It's weird to like be playing Animal Crossing and no one's here. It reminded me of the house, because the house was like empty and abandoned. And I'm playing Animal Crossing at 3 in the morning, and the town is empty and abandoned because no one is up. I was just like, oh. So, yeah, it was just it's a memory that really sticks out to me for some reason. I don't know why. So then, yeah, I started getting older. I started becoming less okay with it. Like, I would fight a lot more. I'd be a lot more indifferent and stuff, and start getting angsty. And, I'm trying to think of the best way to get into this. So I wasn't happy. Like, at all. I didn't feel like I had a home life. I felt like I would go in, shut myself off, and play video games, which works sometimes. But then you've played them all, or you just like, you're still in a bad mood, and it doesn't quite cut it anymore. And I stopped really going over Biggie's house, because I was just like, there's nothing really to do there. All my stuff is here, like my computer and stuff. And I don't really want to, like, we would go to parks when I was a kid, that'd be great. But like as an adult, I'm like, I don't care. Like, not an adult, but as like a teenager, I was like, I don't want to go like fucking run around the park for like a couple hours. That doesn't do anything. My brother just still liked it. But I was like stopped going over as much. And then I'm trying to think of another way to put this. I would stop going over as much. I would just kind of like seclude myself. And by then, like, I had a job at this point. My mother worked at a grocery store, and she was able to, like, when she was lucid enough, I guess, when she went to work, she was able to tell them, like, oh, you know, can my son work here? He's great, and stuff like that. And so yeah, I had a part-time job being a cashier. That was the first thing I did at that store, and it was probably the worst job I ever had. And not because, like, it wasn't because the work itself was bad. It was just, you know, it's just being a cashier. Being a cashier sucks, by the way. But like at a grocery store, it's extra bad because there's literally nothing else to do but stand there and just wait for customers. At least in like a retail store where you can go fix up the product or something. In a grocery store, it's like, no, they have a department specifically to go mess with the products and stuff. You've got fuck all to do. So, I remember really not liking that. And then, alright, let's get some brains in here too. But so like, I was miserable, and school was really rough too. I would have been about like a freshman in high school at this point, so I was 14, 15. I was a freshman in high school, and school was getting hard. This is half an excuse, half the truth. My school district was really like one of the top school districts in the country. It was still public school, don't get me wrong, but it's the same school Carlos went to. And while he was in like honors classes, I was in like the normal classes, and I was just struggling just to like do the basic shit. Like, just, I don't know how to explain it. We're just like, there was just a lot of workload, especially compared to like middle school, which I didn't particularly excel at either. I've talked about it before. My grades were not great. I never failed. I would always do like the bare minimum. And then it would come to like, a lot of stuff was like homework or papers. And I'd have to come home and either my mother would be screaming at me, my siblings, or whoever she was seeing at the time. She'd be comatose and I'd have to be dealing with my own stuff. And it's just like, I'd be so miserable. I'd try and play video games to like even out so I wouldn't be so fucking miserable. And it just didn't always work. And I remember just really just getting to a low point in my life where I was just like, I go to school, I'm miserable. I had a couple friends, but I wasn't like hanging out with them after school because I have to go immediately to work. I was basically just spending it all on food because, again, I wasn't being fed and stuff like that. And I'd spend it on like video games and stuff. And then I wasn't saving any money. Which if you're younger and you're listening to this, like if you're below 18, or if you're in a situation where you live at home, or you live in college, and most of your stuff is paid for, but you're still working, and you're just spending all the money as soon as you get it, please don't. Like, take it from someone who's 26. Like, I'm not that much older than you guys. Please put some money away. Put like a set amount each week. You will need it, even if it's for emergency stuff, like you need to get a car fixed, you need to do this or that. Even if it's just like to get a good like lump sum to go move out. Fuck, please save money. That is, I wish I could tell my past self to save more money. I'm trying to think of like what can I do. I'm gonna go do some like arena stuff. So yeah, miserable at school, miserable at work. Barely had any time to myself. When I did, I was just playing video games over and over, which isn't bad, but you know. And things just kind of got rough. I remember, so there was one night, I think my mother had like, this was the other thing too, my mother was like notoriously late to everything. So like picking up from school, picking up from work, taking me to work sometimes. That's the one that pissed me off the most because I'm like, I'm getting yelled at because my mother couldn't get her shit together. Yeah, I remember there was one night, this was a Saturday. So like I had worked all Saturday. I did like 2 to 9, which is a terrible shift. And at the time I was just playing like Call of Duty or something. I think I was very broke though. Like we had just gotten paid. I had to buy something. I think I had to like either buy food or something else. But I remember it was like I didn't have a choice in the matter and I had to spend the money. And I wasn't going to get paid for another week. And so I had like $10 to my name to get me through a week, which when you're in school isn't as bad, but it's still not great. Oh shit. Damn, I wasn't expecting him to beat me like that. Did I already beat him once? I must have. I'll wait till I level up. So, yeah, it just keeps piling, is what it does. So, I'm trying to think of now. So school. Oh, all right. So, I was working a really late day, and I'd have a bunch of stuff I had to get done by the end of the weekend. I had like 4 papers due. I had and just like homework in general and stuff I had to take home was awful. Like whenever I was in school work, I'd be fine and I'd get it done very quickly. Usually to the point where I'd have enough time left over in class, and then I'd like read a book. As boring as that sounds, like this was before smartphones. But even if it wasn't, I'd still probably just read because you can get away with it more in school. But I was just really isolated and cutting myself off. So then at that work day, I remember eventually got to the point where I was the last register there. So like we had 4 registers. It was a smaller supermarket. It wasn't like a chain supermarket, but it was still sizable. And we had 4 registers. So we started off, it was pretty busy in the beginning of the day. And I think this might have been the same day. So it was pretty busy that day, and eventually the other cashiers went home, and I moved to register 1, and I was the last one, just kind of waiting for the last of the customers. But earlier in that day, a customer had come through, or I'm sorry, I was dealing with a customer, and like I was just zoned out. And to be honest, this is a shitty thing to do for a cashier to do, but it was still like, it was an honest mistake, where we had like 3 people in line, and I was ringing one person up, and I'd like zoned out. And I reached over like the divider thing, like you know how you put down those things between your order and like the next person's. Shit, he's really tired. I should go have him rest. And like she goes, "Oh no, that's not mine." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that." And I just took it off. And then but the guy who I took it from looked at me like, "That's why the dividers are there." Like really fucking intensely said that to me, and I was like, "All right." And I said, "I'm sorry." It's like already, I was like, "This guy's kind of a grumpy asshole. So so I think so then I rang him up, and I forget what, I don't know if it was because I didn't, so yeah, he got a couple things. He got like 4 things, and I think I was on I think I might have been on the first register at this point. I'm trying to remember. This was like at least 10 years ago now. I think it actually is like 10 years ago. And I said something, or I just like, all right, have a good night. Like just doing like the last bit of fake kindness I had in me. And I like turned away because I think he might have been the last one. So at that point, so like I turned away. I was like getting ready for the next customer. He goes, and then like I hear from behind me like 5 seconds later, he goes, "Oh, I guess I'll just bag it myself." And I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you wanted a bag. I didn't think you need one." And he goes, "You know, you were very rude to me today. I'm gonna be leaving a complaint with the manager." I don't know if that's exactly what he said. Again, 10 years. I'm fucking filling in some gaps here. And I was like, oh shit. And then like later, I guess he like exited the store and immediately came back in and went to the manager's office and complained about me. So like the assistant manager came over to me and was like, "Yeah, so they just complained. You want to tell me what happened?" I was like, "It's just like he was being really rude. I didn't know I did anything wrong." And they're like, "All right, well, we haven't really got any complaints about you, but you know, just be on your better behavior." And I was like, "All right." So like nothing really came of it because I didn't get complaints a lot, but it was still like a really stressful and like high fucking adrenaline situation for no reason. And so that left me in like a weird mood on top of already coming from like a shitty time at home. So then this is where it gets real. So I told you I was already like low on funds that week, and I think I had about $10. Back then I would buy candy a little more frequently. So I was like, okay, if I'll buy like Twizzlers because they're like $2 for like a pretty big pack of them. I can like slowly pick away at those. It'll last me a little longer than like say like a box of Mike and Ike's for $1. Like I was thinking about this like economically, much more than a 15-year-old should. And so like I bought a pack of Twizzlers. I had a couple, and then like I had to go like do carriages outside or something. And then when I came back, my Twizzlers were gone, and like I like turned to the person behind the counter. So there was the assistant manager, and then there was like the head cashier at the time, and then it was me because at this point like the night had mostly been winding down. I said, did you? What happened to my Twizzlers? I wasn't as like socially amazing as I am now. Like I can talk to anyone now, but I still was a little awkward back then. I know it's hard to imagine me awkward because of the suave voice and the amazing way I talk, but it's true. And then she just kind of giggled and went like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, I was like, "Did you take it? Can you please just put it back?" I definitely said like, I'm really not having a great day today. Can you just put it back? And she goes, "I don't know what you're talking about, huh?" And then like the assistant manager was behind the like reception desk with her, and just like they were chuckling like, great. So it just pissed me off because again, like it shouldn't have, but like this is what like weird depression stuff does to you. Where I was like, you know, the Twizzlers meant something to me. I was like, it was important. It was important enough to me where I was like, come on, like why do you have to do this to me? Like I didn't ask for this. And so then the head cashier is going, and like in between transactions, she's like picking up the baskets that you put in front of the register. She's going to put them back out in the front, and she asked if I had any behind me, because sometimes people just like put their baskets on the conveyor belts, and then you'll take the items out, and then you just put the basket behind you instead of, you know, them taking the stuff out like a fucking functional human being. I want to say that really quick. If you just put your basket down when you go to a grocery store, you're the worst kind of evil. That's why, like, when I worked at 7-Eleven and people would try and pull that shit, I would just be like, "Oh, can you just go put that back?" And I would hand it back to them and be like, "Can you put that back over there?" But yeah, don't do that. Please take your shit out of your basket. It's not easier. It's annoying. It's really, just don't do it. Cool kids don't put their baskets on the belt. Just saying. I can buy giant meat. So yeah, so like she was like, "Oh, do you have any baskets?" And I so I had the basket, and it was like, so you can vaguely picture standard register. You know, you've got the register, you've got the conveyor belt to the right, and then to the left, you've got like the little area for the bagging. So I took the basket, and I meant to like throw it to the end of the counter, but I overshot it by accident. Like I meant to just like throw it there and just like kind of like in an annoyance way. Like because I was still annoyed at her, and I wanted her to know it. But it wasn't aggressive. But then I accidentally overshot it and ended up falling on the ground next to her. And she goes, "Oh my god, you don't have to do that." And like instantly on the inside, I was like, I didn't mean to do that. I feel so fucking stupid. Like I just embarrassed myself. And just fucking, that was it. Like that's when I knew I was fucking quitting. I was like, I was done. So like, in my head, I was just like, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. Like that was the other part that was, I forgot about this too. That was another reason why that shift sucked so bad, was I was like working 2 to 9, and then I have to come back tomorrow and work like 7 to like 4 or something like that. And I was like, I just don't want to do this. I'm so fucking tired. But like knowing I was going to quit made it so much better for me. Because I was just like, oh my god, you look amazing. I didn't want Blue Aramon, but I'll take it, I guess. I was kind of aiming for Growlmon, but whatever. Oh, your stats barely went up. How did you get Blue Aramon as opposed to the other two? Whatever. Okay, I'm going to briefly look at the stats for Gallantmon, see if it's possible. I know I still have to unlock Takata. Dukemon, I need... Ooh, those are some hefty stats. So are Darktramon's, to be honest. It's basically... Actually, Darktramon's a little easier, because it doesn't require as much. I need either Darktramon or Dukemon. So Darktramon's offense needs to be 600. His defense needs to be 400, which is easy. So that's 2. Speed needs to be 500. Brains needs to be 500. That's going to be a little tougher. HP is 4,000. I can definitely get that. MP is 6,000. I'm not even going to aim for it. Minus 10 mistakes. I can get that. Weight plus 55. I definitely have that. Techniques 40 plus. I'm going to go for Darktramon because I feel like he'll be a little easier. And then I might try and go for Chaosmon. Alright. Let me look at this a little bit more. Alright, had to dip out for a second. Someone came home, and I was like, not really trying to bare my soul when someone could be listening at the door. So, yeah, let's get more into this. So I think I left off where I'd, like, thrown the basket. It sounds so weird that I'm, like, saying I left off. For you guys, it was, like, a minute ago. I left off, and it was really cringy. I felt really embarrassed, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna quit. I'm not coming back here tomorrow. Eventually... Oh, no, and on top of that, so they brought the Twizzlers back. I forgot about this part, but it was like at first they put the bag back, but it was just empty with no Twizzlers, and then I threw the basket, because I was just sort of like, okay, you guys either ate my Twizzlers or threw them out, great. And so, like, but I threw it more than I wanted to, and it made me feel shitty, and then I went somewhere, and I came back, and Twizzlers were, like, in a grocery bag, and I was like, great, so now I feel like a fucking cringe fucking monster. And, yeah, so it just felt so terrible. I was like, I can't come back here. It's like, that's pretty much how it's gonna go. So, the rest of the shift went fine. Like, I was a lot happier once I realized, like, this is my last shift, who cares? And then I got out at 9. My mom didn't come to pick me up until, like, 10. She wasn't doing anything, she just was late all the time. So, so I get home, and I stay up until, like, 2 a.m. playing Call of Duty 4. And before I left, I, like, went and bought, like, a bunch of Mike and Ikes and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what, fucking, might as well just go ham. And, so I, like, used up the last of my 10, and I was just like, doesn't matter even more. I'm just gonna go home and stress eat. And, I stayed up until, like, 2 a.m. because, like, it doesn't matter, I'm not gonna be there at 7 tomorrow. And, around 2 a.m., I unplugged my PS3, and I went into the bathroom, plugged it in, and waited, and started to slowly fill up the bathtub. And it was a really weird time. And so, like, there was a couple things going through my head, which was, I don't want anyone to walk in while I'm filling up the bathtub at 2 in the morning. that would be very hard to explain away. So I just locked the door. I remember keeping my pajamas on because I was like, you know, doesn't matter. Like, at first I was like, oh, I don't want to get them wet, and I was like, it doesn't matter. So while I'm filling it up, I realized, like, you know, you gotta write your like last sort of like testaments, or not testaments. You gotta like write your last like thoughts. But I didn't have anything to do that with. So, but I found some, I don't know why these were in there, but I found like this huge like shoebox of like colored pencils. So I wrote out on crayons. I'm sorry, on crayons. I wrote out on toilet paper with the colored pencils just a few messages to like 4 of my friends and my dad. And to my dad, I just said sorry. And to like a friend, it said like specific things. Like, I don't know what I said to Carlos, but I did write him a note. And when it was filled, I plugged in the PS3. Chose the PS3, by the way, because the classic is to go with the toaster. But I already knew that my toaster's cord wasn't long enough. Like, the sink was like across from our, with the outlet in it, was across from our bathtub, and it was just too far. And I suspect that toasters are intentionally made with, what do you call it, with short cords, specifically to stop this kind of thing. So I took my old fat PS3, it was one of the like early models, and I sat in the bathtub fully clothed with the water in there, and I just held it in my hands for a second. And I remember thinking, like, I was so convinced I wanted to die, like, but some weird like fight or flight type of like mechanism in my body was like just clinging on and would just not let me let go. It wasn't fear, it wasn't anything, it was just like my mind was perfectly clear at the time, so I thought. But like my hands just would not let go. So like, you might be thinking like, oh, that's the end of it. Nick almost attempted suicide. Oh, what a fucking loser. Just bringing around that trauma. No. Because you guys know me, I'm a smart guy. So what I did is I tricked my own fucking body. My own fucking like self-preservation instincts. And I just held the system in like the tips of my fingers. And like my hands were like a little wet at that point. And the system was heavy because it was a big giant brick. And just slowly it slipped out of my hands until it plunged into the bathtub. And I remember looking at it, and we were looking at the lights, and it was on, so I saw it go from green, it blinked, it was green again, it blinked, it was yellow this time, it blinked again, yellow again, and then it blinked one more time, was red, and then it turned off. And that entire thing just went out in like slow motion. It was probably over the course of like a second or two, but its time slowed down when I did it, and I just threw it out of the bathtub, where I was just like either was self-preservation or it was just like the realization after attempting, where I was just like, no, this isn't what I want to do right now. And yeah, I got out of I went back to my room, put the PS3 where it normally was, didn't even try to dry it off, it's just like, yeah, it's probably gone. Took off my wet clothes, put on different clothes, and I just went to bed until my mother was just gonna like try and wake me up. She tried to wake me up because she wanted me to keep my job, because, you know, if I got in trouble, then they would just like, at that point they knew that she was the one who was bringing me in late all the time, so she didn't want to get shit for making me late or something. So like, she went to wake me up at like 6:45, and she opened the door, and like I said, listen, I need to tell you something. Last night I tried to kill myself, and she did not take it well. I don't think anyone could, but I think she took it worse than anyone should have. Which her response was not, oh my god, why would you do this, blah, blah, blah. It was, I was raped, is what she said. And I was like, what? And she said, like, yeah, your grandfather was like a mean drunk. And I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that on top of everything else that I have to process right now? And she was saying, you know, you're not the only one who like has it bad. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Munchausen syndrome? Like, what? I don't. So, but eventually she snapped out of it, and I said, like, I need to go to the hospital. I need to go to crisis prevention, because I don't know how long this moment of clarity is going to last. And she was like, all right, I guess. I'm like, called my dad and stuff, and that was a hard phone call. And this is normally where I stop telling the story, but this is my channel, so we're gonna go a bit further. Maybe even more than you want to hear. So then I had to go sit in the pediatric ward of the hospital. They have like a special, not special, I'm sorry, they don't have like a special room for it. I wish they did. They have like special protocols for it, which is I need to be on 24-hour watch, and because I was 16 or 15 at the time, I had to be in the pediatric ward. So it was like a bunch of kids with like broken arms and like sick kids or whatever around it. And I'm in like an isolated room off in the corner. And I'm like perfectly cooperative because like I know the situation here. I'm like, I understand that I'm not gonna pull anything. There's nothing I can do in a hospital. I'm in a fucking gown. I don't even have my possessions. It felt like I was in transit to like go to jail or something. And it was like they were all perfectly nice. Eventually they wheeled in like an old TV and had some VCR stuff with it. But I was just like, all it was this room, a very small room by the way. And it was like I was just on a bed, and they wheeled like the TV out to like the front of the door, and like my dad would stay with me sometimes, my mom visited, but like overall it was just a lot of like isolation. And I remember thinking like maybe this isn't the best like way to treat this, because that's kind of what got me here in the first place. Oh, he is tired. I was worried about that. I could be better about that. So yeah, and then I remember I had to be there for like 24 hours, or it was like 48 hours or something before they could do anything. And I remember I watched C-Spot Run with Luke Wilson and the fucking dog. That was the only time I've seen that movie. I'm sorry, I saw it one other time when I went to work at the convenience store, like 7 years later. But I remember thinking, like, this is such a weird situation. Why am I seeing this strange movie for the first time in this hospital? So eventually they moved me to what they called the Attleboro Centers, because I'm from Massachusetts. There's a town called Attleboro, and it's not like a public center, which is what it sounds like. It was a think of it like a halfway house, but for like teens and youths. And it was for people who were at homicidal or suicidal risk. And basically it was just like you're under 24-hour watch, and there's also supposed to be therapy and stuff to like help you along the way. And it was rough. I was there for like a month, and I told everyone at school and stuff that I had like a stomach virus. I didn't tell anyone what really happened for a really long time. I don't think I told Carlos until like senior year of high school. And it was a rough part of my life. So I did that, and just like it was a whole experience. Like I had to get medicated and stuff. And alright, they're gonna pull that shit again. How dare you? I remember I had to take like lithium and like mood stabilizers because they said I was depressed with I don't remember what it was. It was like I was depressed in something else, like maybe just anxiety, which is still true. And I'm gonna give the short version of this from now on, where it's like, you know, I was cooperative there too. Like I knew like I couldn't do anything. I really wanted to go home, but I also wanted to get better. And I remember, this is how old this was. I was before we went, I had a video iPod at the time, which is an old sentence. And before we left, I threw all season 1 and 2 of Code Geass on the video iPod. So like whenever I had downtime, or whenever they allowed me to like go up and be like by myself, because we had like shared like bunks too. But like if you were a level 1 resident, which means like, you know, you're well behaved and stuff, then you were entitled to certain perks. And if you were, I think level 3 is entry, level 2 is for sort of good behavior, and level 1 you have to take at least like a week to get there. And as if you do all your like chores and shit and stuff. I'm not ragging on it. It sounds dumb when I explain it, but it was a pretty good system for kids. I think it gave a lot of kids who didn't have it like structure and stuff. I didn't need structure because I'd given it to myself, I think. But it was yeah, it was like I was well behaved. I was fucking dweeb. It's like I'd watch like Code Geass in my downtime and stuff like that. Again, for the like third time already. And yeah, it was rough. I eventually got out. I would end up going back 2 more times because I had like pseudo suicide attempts, which was like I felt the same like levels of intensity of like I want to kill myself that I did again, and I like reached out and I was like, I'm gonna attempt suicide if I don't like do something. And it was just a lot of like this pressure of like trying to make up work at school, combined with going back to work. I did go back to the same place to work, which might have been a bad mistake. And you know, things at home didn't get better. Eventually, my mother's pity party wore off, and she just went back to normal. She was helpful for a little bit, but it wasn't nearly enough. All right, so I think HP is what I'll work on. And yeah, it was a really rough time in my life, but it's like the thing that I think is the worst about it is that I didn't get cured. I didn't like walk away, and I feel like people who struggle with depression need to hear this, especially if you're like in your teenage years. I didn't walk away thinking, oh, I'm cured. In fact, I walked away and was like, I walked away and went like, nothing's really changed, except like I'm more aware of like what's wrong with me, if that makes sense. And it's not even that it's wrong with you, it's like, you know, situational stuff can happen and cause you to feel this way. But there was no like magic like I don't want to die anymore. Like I still kind of wanted to die, but it was more of like internally I just told myself like shit, not shit, but it's like internally I just told myself I don't want it. I just don't think about it. You don't have a good like coping mechanism to get through this. Just don't think about it, which is terrible advice. And like there have been times in like my adult life where I just like really wanted to die too, and it's just like, for the most part, and it sounds weird to say this, just not thinking about like anything related to suicide. Like I'd still make jokes like, oh, I want to kill myself, but like that's just growing up as a millennial. But I would still make jokes like that and stuff, but I wouldn't like think about how I would do it again. I just like, if I would start to think about that, I'd just be like, nope. Which takes a lot of self-control, and it's not a foolproof method by any means, and it's not guaranteed to work for everyone. But that's the only real advice I can give. And eventually I started thinking about it again, and it's just more of like, some days I'll be depressed, and some days I won't. And sometimes I'll go through large bouts of depression, and sometimes I won't. So there is no magic here. There is no like, you're better. But eventually, I will say this for sure. As time went on, I did feel better. And it was just like, purely, a lot of it was mixed with like hormones, being a teenager, and stuff like that. The real reason I like attempted it was like I truly thought that like I would never be happy. My family would always be shit. I wouldn't get a good job. I wouldn't like school wouldn't do anything for me. And like I'm not saying this to like toot my own horn, but I feel like I was a pretty perceptive kid. I feel like I had to grow up a little sooner than a lot of people, because, and like there's one thing I've always like kind of had a gift for, it's foresight. So like if there's one thing I'm like pretty proud of, it's my ability to like predict things and think of like how they're gonna go. And unfortunately I was pretty spot on. Those things did happen. School has been a fucking nightmare. My family situation only got worse, but did get better. And it sounds fucking horrific to say this, but it got better when my mother died, because it pulled the rest of the family close together. And not just that, it was slowly getting better once I had like started going to college and like was starting to find my own way. And it's but yeah, the moral is like, even me and my all-knowing wisdom and my amazing ability to predict things, I was still a teenager. Like honestly, I'm happy. It's fleeting. It's not all the time. Right now, the reason I can talk about this is that I am happy, so it's not dragging me down. And YouTube has been a lot of fun. YouTube hasn't really put any extra... Oh, that's not true. YouTube has put more stress on me at other times, but it's like self-inflicted. Because like I'll be like, oh man, I need to get something out. It's been like a while, or oh, I need to do this. Meanwhile, you guys are like, whatever. I'm gonna watch Nick's content when it comes out. And it took a lot of like understanding that was gonna be how it's gonna like happen before I like calmed down a little bit. Or I was like, there's a lot of these expectations are just like what I put in myself. And I recently talked to someone else, I think it's Justin, my friend Justin, who I know from GameStop at work. And he, like I said, he had his own channel he still has his own channel, but it was a lot bigger, but it was very different. That's a whole story that I can't get into. That's again, his story to hell, not mine. But he talked about it and he was like, yeah, I was just like really stressed, a lot of like self-imposed like things I had to do to myself and whatnot. And I was just like, oh my god, it's real. It happens to everyone. So it's actually been a huge load off like my mind to hear that. That's kind of why I'm like going forward with this and just like doing more shit, like, and posting at weird hours and stuff. I'm like, who cares, you know? It's my channel. I'll do shit what I want to do, and hopefully people will enjoy that. I'm trying to figure out what I'm aiming for again. I don't want to aim specifically for Dark Digimon, but it might be easier. HP is good, attack is good, defense is good, mistakes are good. Need 40 plus battles. Weight is probably... Did I say weight is good? Speed needs 500, and brains need to be 500. Oh, and he needs 6 quotas for Dark Digimon. Worst case scenario, I'll go grab the Dark Digimon evolution item, but I want to try and get it legitimately. 4,600, 400. I'm going to have to go for speed or brains. I don't want to, but I'll have to. I could just go for battles. So let's see. I need speed to get to 400, which isn't... Or, I'm sorry, 500, which isn't that far away. And then HP. I'm not going to get... What is weight? Weight's good. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then care mistakes, so 5. I need at least 1 more. So if I can get my speed to 500, that'll be good. Or something else. I could go for battles too. I might just go for battles because I need some money. First things first, let's try and kick Matt's ass because I want to unlock Metal Garurumon. I'm going to go try and kick Gallantmon's ass too because I want to make sure I have him as well. But yeah, so that's my story. There's more to it, obviously, but that's a good like brief summary. I've wanted to put that on recording for a long time, and I get the feeling I've told this story before, so maybe I have put it somewhere. Maybe I didn't release it. I don't know what happened, but oh shit, is he actually beating me? How did this happen? Attack, you monster! Oh, I'm fucked. Yeah, let's try that again. I can definitely beat him. So, what was I gonna say? But yeah, my biggest message I wanted to get across here was that if you're feeling, you know, really fucking shitty, like shit's gone really wrong, A, you're not alone, and B, things do get better. As cliche and as annoying as it sounds, they do get better. Even if, like, you don't feel like they're getting better, they will. It's just a matter of fact. And they can also get worse, but there's a limit, and eventually they will get better. That is the best advice I can give you. Hey, okay, Metal Garurumon's unlocked. Good. My goal is to unlock as many Digimon as I can. What else? Shit, fuck, how do I follow that up? I'm trying to think now. I think I had something else to like talk to that's like an addendum to that. Oh, yeah, so, God, I wish I was strong enough to say this. I'm not. But if you're feeling like that, you should reach out to someone. You should reach out to someone and, like, hopefully, you know, you'll find out that... I'm sorry, how do I put this? You should reach out if you're feeling, like, really, like, lost and stuff like that. And this is gonna sound really callous, but not to me, because I am not a trained professional. I can make some people feel better. This is fact. If I communicate with people, I can like help them out, and hopefully they'll be in a better place than they left or than they started. I mean, but I am not strong enough internally to handle some people's like problems, especially more than one person at a time. But you should absolutely still get help. It sounds really weird, and you should like, but help does work. I forgot to mention this too. I had a therapist for like 3 years, and at first I was like, I didn't really know what to talk about with them. It was really awkward. Eventually, I think I had like a shitty day with my mom, and I was just like, can I just like complain about this? And she was like, that's literally why you're here. And I was like, oh, that's therapy. It's just airing your problems, then having someone talk about it. And like I know everyone like thinks it's gonna be like, oh, you know, they're just gonna be like, well, how does that make you feel? And it's like, no fucking therapist asks that. Like, come on. Like, it's mostly, they'll mostly ask questions like, or they'll mostly try and like give small suggestions. Like my favorite thing is like, it was like a Tumblr post or something Or like someone said they ate like a bowl of like Cheerios every morning and it made them miserable because they hated Cheerios, but like they needed to get breakfast, and this was like the thing they hated the least for breakfast food. And like after like going on and on about it to the therapist was eventually like, why not just have like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for breakfast? And they were like, what? And they're like, yeah, you don't have to have breakfast food for breakfast. Like, you're an adult, you can do whatever you want. And it like changed their mind, or I'm sorry, it like changed their like world, because now they realize they can eat whatever they want. And so they started eating PB&J. It was just like a small thing, but like slowly made them feel better. And I was like, that's pretty much therapy. Is you going in there with like this very like thick mindset where it's like, you know, this is how things have to be. A lot of self-imposed restrictions. They're like, why not just do this? And you're like, holy shit, I never thought about that. That's what good therapy is supposed to be. And I highly recommend it. People at least try. See if your insurance offers it. If you're in the U.S., I don't know how it works in other places. I'm sure you probably have to pay out of pocket. But try like an intro session. Like, try and call up and give like an introductory, like, hey, here's the issue. Here's the issues I've been having. Do you think you'd be like, or do you think you have a good therapist, like, for my issues? And they'll get to you. Again, there was no moment where I'm like, oh, I'm cured. And there wasn't even like a moment after therapy where I was like, you know, oh man, I'm so much fucking better. It was just sort of like, I went and just like very, very slowly over time got a little bit better. Just because like it helped to talk about it. It helped to have someone to listen. It helped to like air my grievances outside of Festivus. And it's, yeah, I can't really, it's so hard to put into words. But it was just like, eventually I felt a little bit better. And then like when I was supposed to be having my life, this is really fucked up, and this is my life in a nutshell. But after on my last therapy session, my therapist was like, oh, this is perfect because I'm actually moving to Tennessee. And I was like, oh. And I remember my dad asked her, I was like, oh, what are you gonna be doing in Tennessee? And she's like, I don't know. And he was like, do you have a job lined up there? And she's like, nope, just moving out with my boyfriend. And I remember thinking, like, holy shit, my therapist doesn't know what the fuck she's got, or what the fuck she's doing. And I remember thinking, like, huh, I hope that doesn't undo all of my therapy. And for a while I thought maybe it did, but it doesn't. Honestly, therapy is, and this is, again, it's gonna sound real cliche, so just fucking bear with me. It's what you make of it. So, if you go in there and you manage to get some good stuff out of it, and that's all that really matters. It doesn't matter what anyone else says or like does or what they tell you therapy's supposed to be. Therapy is just whatever you need to get better. And I feel like people need to understand that. Oh boy. Okay. Well, we're about at the hour mark and I don't know what else to do other than just like run around and go fight battles. I don't really want to train at speed if I don't have to. So that's the end of part 7. I think I had a good idea lined up for part 8. I was going to be like, okay, part 7 is going to be about the worst moment of my life. And then part 8 is going to be about this. And it's like, I can't fucking remember what I had for part 8. So I'm going to have to think of something to talk about. But yeah, still feel free to let me know in the comments, or it's like what you thought of it, if it was too heavy. I'm not saying don't share your experiences. Like, if you've had a similar experience, feel free to post it in the comments. Just like, don't expect me to be an amazing therapist and like fix you or something like that, because I am not qualified to do that. I am not a trained professional, and I'm not like, I can't promise anything, but I do also understand that it really fucking helps to have somewhere to reach out. And hey, this would be a good time to plug the Discord. If you want to talk to a bunch of other people who have fucking depression and like Digimon and also just like my soothing voice, join the Discord. Links in the description. You know, I'll bet you have similar interests. I'm just willing to guess. So, thank you guys very much for listening to me rant today. And, yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Looking forward to seeing how this one does. Leave me all the feedback you can. It doesn't matter what it is. I just love hearing comments. I love getting that notification on my phone that says YouTube comment. I'll be like, oh boy. I'll click on it. It'll be like, hey, thanks for making the 200. No, I'll be like, fuck. There's another person who's watching the fucking Final Fantasy Lightning Dodger video. Which I'm like, it's great, but it's the same fucking comment every time. It's always like, thank you, before I never knew how to dodge lightning, but then I saw your video and suddenly I could dodge lightning. You're the best, thank you. I'm like, I get it, it's true. But like, I have 40 comments saying the same thing right before you. And it gets old. Give me creativity. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day or evening, wherever you are, and good night. Hey, what's up, guys? Just a quick shout out to the December 2018 Patreon subs, donators, whatever you want to call it, for tax reasons subs. Thank you to ErtRev and Stuff with Scoutfly for $1. Stuff with Scoutfly, brand new this month. My friend Justin from GameStop. You should check out his channel. Carlos Lopes with the $2. Fuck that guy. Azure with the $3. Thank you. Maz, Happy Lamp, Jacker. I always forget Happy's full name. Maz, Happy, and Norm P with the $5. Thank you, guys. Sir ENIAC and Connor Soverwall with the 10, and the man, and John, the man, the myth, the legend, Barnett with the 15. You guys rock. Thank you all so much. Literally going straight to my car insurance. So thank you. But yeah, so special announcement this month. Continuing, just for those who don't know, if you're a Patreon sub, you get to watch videos early, unless I put it straight out. So right now, I can't have concrete numbers on what's already out, but there'll probably be a few Let's Go EVs, a few Tag Force parts, a few just miscellaneous videos and stuff like that. So just videos I gotta start going down my list and doing. But the biggest announcement by far is starting this month, I'm going to be doing Let's Play Digimon World Redigitize Season 2. And you're like, oh, Nick, you've already played that. No shit, that's why I said Season 2. Fucking keep up, let's go. So what it is just me Let's Playing Digimon World Redigitize. It's been a few years since I've played it. And I'm going to release one part every Friday. So the first one is like January 3rd or 4th, whenever the fuck. I didn't check the date. I don't know. It's not the first. I know that much. And then, every Friday. But if you're a Patreon sub, you can watch all of them immediately. And I know right now there's at least 3 or 4. So you can go into that. And you may be thinking like, oh, cool. I mean, you're playing Digimon again. What's so special about it? I will tell you what's so special about it. I'm going back to form. When I started this channel, when I started doing videos, I would basically play a game in the background, usually Digimon, and just shoot the fucking shit. I wouldn't talk about anything. Like, nothing specific, and I kind of strayed away from that for a couple of reasons. My life got real fucking depressing, and I didn't want to, like, condemn you. I didn't want to, like, bring you guys down. And, I don't know. It's harder to do that, to be honest. It's harder to just be like, here's some interesting stories. It's easier to just be like, oh, here's this thing that's going on in the game, and talking about the game. I'm not saying the other videos are bad, but if you're like, man, I kind of feel like Nick has kind of shifted away a little bit, or, I kind of like the old Digimon videos better, this is probably why. So I'm going to try and do this. I'm going to do this with Digimon Redigitize for at least a little bit. I talk about it more in the first video. I'm going to do it for a good amount, and then when Digimon Survive comes out, I'll switch over to that, and then when that's over, I'll switch back to this. And then after that, maybe I'll play another Digimon game. Maybe I'll play a game like Okami or Paper Mario. Because my favorite games don't get enough love on this channel, which is fucked up. This is my channel. Why the fuck don't you guys like the games I like? So yeah, this Patreon outro is a little bit long, but this is also my new way of putting like general announcements. So, become a Patreon sub, watch that shit early right now. And if you're like, I don't know, maybe it won't be that good, watch part 1. It comes out early January. And if you're like, Nick, you use this outro for the entire month, so I'm watching this on like January 20th, then great, you've got at least like 2 or 3 videos. Fucking watch those, and then you can watch even more, and so on and so forth. Stop bothering me. Also, I got new posters, but that's it. Thank you guys, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you very much again. You guys are amazing.